It was October 16th, 2002.
A typical day
I had my 8-month-old son on my hip.
for a young mother running errands
And we went to pick up my 3-year-old daughter from our church preschool.
that turned into a nightmare. NBC2 does not normally identify victims of sexual assault, but Diehl Weil wants to put a face to her story.
I had my back turned and I was buckling my son in. Just out of the blue, somebody hit me over the head.
Julie's abductor pushed her into her minivan, grabbed her keys, and drove 2 hours to the Everglades.
And he said to me, "Do you believe in God?" And when I said yes, he said, "Then you're going to forgive me for what I'm going to do to you and your 2 kids."
With her children watching, Julie was raped 4 times.
My worst nightmare.
An hour later, she was at a rape crisis center in Dade County.
Poked and prodded and photographed and, in essence, reviolated all over again.
But Julie says she's lucky.
Your kit was tested fairly quickly.
My kit did go to the lab, and it got tested because in Dade County there was no sizable backlog at the time.
Police caught Michael Siebert 6 months later, and he is serving 7 life sentences.
When they ran the rape kit on my case, it linked to 3 other rapes.
Every time a rape kit is processed, the results are entered into a database called CODIS, and that DNA can be key in catching serial rapists.
Everybody deserves to have their kit tested.
But in a statewide audit conducted last year, we learned that 2 Southwest Florida agencies had rape kits that should have been turned over for processing. The Lee County Sheriff's Office had 498. LCSO tells the NBC2 Investigators they have since submitted 453. And Fort Myers Police had 25. They tell me they've submitted 15 of those untested kits.
And now you're advocating for other women whose kits are sitting on shelves.
Every single one of them represents a family, a story, and a tragedy. That has to change.
And it is. In March, Governor Rick Scott signed new legislation requiring rape kits be sent for processing within 30 days.
It's very difficult to prove a sexual assault in court without evidence. And even with evidence, it can be tricky. So this is really important.
Christine Kobe works with rape victims, and she says this legislation is long overdue.
During that whole time, are people being hurt? People being victimized?
As for Diehl Weil,
It's been a long time.
she's healing,
We still deal with it every day. My kids still deal with it every day.
but hopeful for other victims.
Now, people in Florida know that if they go in for a rape kit, they're going to be taken seriously. It's going to be tested, and they do have a shot at justice.
So why weren't law enforcement agencies submitting all of these kits in the first place? Well, I've heard a number of reasons from the suspect pleaded guilty to the case was unfounded. Regardless, advocates like Julie say every kit needs to be tested because they can help solve other crimes. For the NBC2 Investigators, I'm Rachel Polansky.